Fixers, hope you're having an awesome day. Are you ready to better understand yourself, your partner, and your marriage? I think you will, and I think you know that you will together with our title listed 7 types of love. So all it takes is 4 seconds, just 4 seconds of your day to go and share this with someone else that you love so they too can understand themselves and their partner and their relationship better. Why don't you go and do that right now? Today, we've got an award-winning psychiatrist, music professor, and Churchill fellow. He is the author of the 7 Types of Love and has been doing this for over 20 years. Thank you so much, Dr. Kristen, for being here. I am excited to be speaking with you. You want to start by sharing with us something that you've done as a child that your parents still laugh about till today.
That my parents still laugh about? Oh, wow. I had a wicked sense of humor. Humor was a big thing in my family, but sometimes I took things a little bit too far, right? So I was going through this stage of when I was about 11 years old, when I thought practical jokes is a really good idea. Now, practical jokes is when you make somebody else look funny and they don't always appreciate it. So for some strange reason, I decided that I would show mum to the table. This was during a big family gathering. And just as she sat down, I took the chair away. All right. Now, that actually hurts. All right. I burst out laughing, but normally I'm a joker and everybody else laughs along. But you know what? For some strange reason, other people didn't laugh along. And I kind of realized at that moment that humor is fantastic, but other people have to be laughing too, and you can't hurt anybody with your humor. So that was a big lesson for me.
Wow. Well, I'm impressed you actually learned that lesson versus just like, hey, just blame mom for it or something.
Oh, poor mums get blamed for everything. All right. And I mean,
you're saying that now. I don't know if you said that at 11 years old.
I know. But you see, mums are so important to us that we take them for granted. And we take them for granted as children, and we take them for granted almost through our whole lives.
Yeah. Well, what's that almost part? At what point do we not?
Okay, when you're in a relationship and my spouse becomes a mother, you go, oh my God, somebody did all that stuff for me, and I had no idea what a truckload of work it was. Then you start to appreciate your own mother.
Yeah, you have to experience it, right? To really
experience
that person from that perspective. Okay, so let's start. What are the 7 types of love?
All right. Okay, so Esty, if I just give you a list, then we'll kind of miss them all. But through the course of the next, 10 or 15 minutes, we'll probably go through them one by one. But so I've written a book looking at love because in our society where we're obsessed with love, I realized as a psychiatrist that we didn't actually have a good understanding of what love is. Now, we're learning a lot about love scientifically, how it's mediated by a chemical called oxytocin in the brain. Now, in birthing suites where mums and babies are, there's a lot of oxytocin, right? But we found out that this chemical in our brain mediates all of our human interactions that involve love or trust. So even if you're in business and you come and you make a handshake, we've got a deal. For each of those people, there is this little burst of oxytocin that says, I can trust this somebody. We can actually make a deal here and feel good about it. That's oxytocin. That, in a sense, mediates this idea of love. And all mammals experience love, particularly through taking care of their young, through this chemical oxytocin. But
how do you know that about animals?
About animals. All right. Okay. Because we've done a lot of studies in the last 20 years as to what mediates this idea of love. And so they actually looked at prairie dogs, right? And when they pack together, they actually have more of this chemical called oxytocin. And I haven't looked at the animal studies themselves. I've looked at studies that have referenced that. I'm interested in human beings.
Yeah, it's way more interesting.
I found human beings way more interesting. That's right. Okay, so I'm going to tell you one experiment, a scientific experiment that sort of showed the relationship between love and oxytocin. There was a scientist, and she decided to turn her wedding into a big scientific experiment, all right? Scientists are really romantic, all right? You can imagine
I like this scientist.
Yeah. The scientist, she said, okay, when you come to my wedding, I don't want you to give me a present. I want you to give me your blood, right? So what she did was, at the start of the day, when everybody was just mingling around, everybody gave a vial of blood, right? And what she did was measure the oxytocin level in the blood. And then the day goes on, people mingle, people eat a bit, and then comes time for the ceremony. Then comes the time that the bride arrives with the father, gets led down the aisle, and they have this ceremony. And right at the point where the bride and the groom are about to say, I do, stop everything, more blood. So
From
blood
all the guests.
From all the guests, okay? And what she wanted to show was, all right, so her friends that turned up for the wedding, they had a rise in oxytocin at that moment. Her family had a rise in oxytocin at that moment as well. She, of course, had the biggest rise in oxytocin at that moment. Her parents had a really big rise in oxytocin. And the only other person that had a big rise in oxytocin, except that was not quite the same as her, was the groom, right? And just as well, he had that rise in oxytocin, because if he didn't, he would have heard about it for the rest of his life, okay? But no, this is a true story.
He shouldn't have got to marry, because he wouldn't have liked her.
Exactly. All right. So, but what she showed was that the people who were feeling the most love on the day had the biggest rise in oxytocin in their blood. And everybody had a rise, but the closer you were to the couple, the higher your oxytocin rise. And I find that a pretty cool scientific experiment.
Would you have been at that wedding?
Oh, gosh, I love weddings, all right? My son has just celebrated his 3rd wedding anniversary. We still have great memories of their wedding. We've got another couple of weddings coming up. It's just lovely, because love flows at a wedding. So part of looking at love is not just the wedding, because we tend to think in scientific terms only of erotic love, the love between a man and a woman, which leads to intimate physical union, which leads sometimes to children, okay? So that's one type of love. And all of our science actually is based on that love. But when I looked at the wisdom of ancient Greece, they had many, many terms for the word love. And so eros obviously is this word for man and woman love, or erotic love between a couple, any couple, right? But there are so many other types of love as well. So philos, where we get the word Philadelphia, or hydrophilic, which means liking water. The word means affection. And so our word friendship comes from this word philos. So that's another type of love. And a lot of couples will talk about, hey, how's the friendship in our relationship going? Are we best friends as well as being lovers? So that's already 2. But if we start off at the start of a relationship, when a couple first meet each other, they're actually strangers. And so we actually have a type of love that we need to negotiate the stranger state, right? So in ancient Greece, the word foreigner or stranger was xenia, right? So we get words like xenophobia, which is a fear of strangers. And so xenophilia is a love of strangers. And I hate to say it, but there's no Princess Xena, right, in ancient mythology, okay? That one was one that was tagged on. But the idea is that we're able to love strangers. And so whenever we get together with strangers, we have these rituals. So let's say getting together, guys down at a bar, drinking a beer together, that's a ritual. Other people may get together and drink a coffee or a tea. That's a ritual. And there's a few things that these rituals do. Firstly, You can't have weapons in your hands when you've got a tea or a coffee in your hand. So that's safer. It also gives people something to talk about that's safe. And you're satisfying your thirst and your hunger with these rituals. And that actually all makes us feel good. So an early relationship is full of these rituals: dating, going out to movies, watching sunsets, going for long drives. These are all dating rituals. And it's a type of love. It is xenia hospitality love, to get to know a stranger. You can interrupt me at any time here because I can keep powering through here, Esty.
So at what point does it go from like a love of a stranger to, I don't know, it switches loves? Like,
Yeah, it does. It does. This person who starts off as a stranger becomes the closest person to you, ideally. But Esty, look, I've been married 30 years now, all right? And there are times when my love partner becomes a stranger to me again, right? Like, let's say my spouse had a big change in her career, right? And the person that I married does not do the same things as the person that I am with now. It's completely different. And when she made that shift, she was like a stranger to me. And I had to negotiate her personality as I would a stranger. And this is where the idea of respect comes in to a relationship. That sometimes, you know what, the other person just needs space to be themselves, and you need to negotiate them and learn something new about them. And for a lot of relationships, it is true, you learn something new about your spouse or your partner every day. And to negotiate that, we have to have a different type of love that involves respect, that involves some rituals, that involves getting to know this part of you. And so when relationships, let's say, are not doing too well or want to do better, sometimes it's worth exploring the respect side of the relationship, the xenia hospitality part of the relationship. Am I giving you enough space to be yourself, to be a stranger?
so I understand that this is like constantly happening throughout the marriage.
Yeah,
But obviously in the beginning it's much stronger, right? Like right when you meet someone, this is happening. It's like full 24/7. So is there at a certain stage in the relationship, I don't mean specifically like a day after knowing them for a certain amount of days, but a certain point where it's not this stranger love anymore, it becomes a different type of love? I don't know if erotic love or something else.
Well, erotic love is the sexual expression of love. It is that desire love. It is where our hormones are excited and we want to be together with that person. And
so that can happen right away in the beginning.
Oh, that can happen right away at the beginning. But people who, let's say, express that right at the beginning, they know that they're strangers to each other in lots of other ways. And so they have to go on this journey of getting to know the whole of each other before they commit to each other, right? And here's the amazing thing. I have talked to a lot of people who say, I knew I was going to be together with that person for the rest of my life when I first saw them, right? And we're talking about a stranger. Now, that's bizarre, but we're starting to understand how that happens. That happens through eye contact and this feeling that we somehow belong together.
So that falls under which type of love?
Okay, so in a way, it's part of the erotic attraction because it's very chemically based. And science has a lot of evidence as to what makes us attractive to each other. And from a scientific point of view, a long-term relationship goes down a certain pathway. First of all, it starts with lust, all right? That idea that, hey, you do it for me. I feel really attracted to you. Then there's an attraction where you say, no, I want to do this just with you. It's not a feeling that I have with other people. You stand out for me. I know that you are going to be very, very important in my life. And then as you go down the pathway, you come to attachment. And attachment is making that commitment, hey, not only are we exclusive, but we're going to stay together, right? We belong together and we are attached, right? And that's the commitment that we want. And we would like that feeling of attraction to stay there. We want the feeling of lust to stay there while we are attached. So perhaps that question that you're asking, where does it switch, comes with another type of love, which is called storge in Greek, all right? Now, that love means belonging love. It's when you get that feeling, hey, you know what? We belong together. Now, when a couple has children, that feeling of belonging together is heightened, strengthened. Okay, when I was present at my boy's birth, and you see that you have produced another human being, you sort of go, okay, we are now together and we belong together. We are going to be tied together. Even if things go wrong, we are going to be tied together through this other human being. So on a very deep level, we now belong together. And that's a different type of love. The belonging of a family, the belonging of being with your one partner, even the belonging that we feel like you're an American. Okay, I'm an Australian. I feel a sense of belonging to Australia. And that gives me a certain love for Australia, just as people have a love for the United States, simply because you belong, right? And you didn't choose that. That's just where you happen to be, but you belong. And that sense of belonging is another type of love that people can work on in their relationships.
So just taking it out of marriage for a second, it's the type of like love that comes with a sense of community and things like that.
Yes. Comes with a sense of community. You'll feel it if you go to a football match, all right? Fans on the same side, they're total strangers, but they all yell together and they'll jump up and down together, and they'll even hug each other when their team scores. And these are strangers. Why? Because they belong together just for those moments, and it's a great sense of feeling. In fact, a lot of researchers have called it perhaps the strongest type of love that we have as humans, this feeling of belonging, because we all want to feel part of the human race.
So if a couple doesn't have children, then what could they do to make this sense of this type of love stronger?
The basic thing is to spend time together, right? And to do what normally gets done. You actually start to stomp around in each other's lives, and you get to know things about each other that nobody else knows. When you share something that is a secret, intimate, or a vulnerability or a fear, wow, some of the things that I have shared with my love partner, I would tell nobody else about. And because of that trust and the vulnerability that I have placed in her and she has placed in me, it would be weird if we did anything like that with anybody else. And we're not talking about physical stuff. We're just talking about information, you know?
Yeah. So how is, let's say, this type of love, and I guess also the love of strangers, different than the love of friendship? What makes something the love of friendship, a friendship love?
All right. Okay. So friendship love, philos, is a very easygoing love. It makes very few demands. So if you think of some of the friends in your life, what tends to happen in friendships is you find common ground to bond on. But if you have a disagreement, or if you've got a job out of town, then the friendship just goes cool for a while. That doesn't mean that you've lost the friendship, but the friendship can give space because it's not as demanding, right? Whereas when you're with your love partner, there's a lot of expectations and there's a lot of demands. It can get pretty intense because in one sense, your job towards your love partner is to love them the way that they want to be loved and the way that they need to be loved. And their job to you is to love you the way that you want to be loved and the way that you need to be loved. Now, that's a tall order. There's a lot of pressure there. And we don't like it when it just sort of cools off. We get really insecure. But sometimes in friendship, you can just spend time together, do things together without that intensity, and you build an understanding and an acceptance that feels really, really good because you're actually developing another type of love. And look, as a psychiatrist, I know of people who have split up, but after that, they remain good friends, okay? Or if a couple feel that the relationship's not doing too well, instead of trying to ramp up the sexual energy and the eros side of the relationship, I say to them, well, how's your friendship going? Sort of like, well, what do you mean? Well, are you on the same side? Do you just like being together? And sometimes we will work on that side of the relationship, and they start to value each other more objectively rather with that passionate desire that comes from eros.
So it's more about just spending time together, doing things together, being okay being together with each other versus any real responsibility for anything.
Yeah. So if you're listening to your love partner and you're having a conversation about something that doesn't normally get talked about, and you're just accepting what they're saying rather than reacting, what you're actually doing is holding back your emotional desire for them and giving them the space to be an objective other person, and you are getting to know them more completely. But to do that, you've got to hold back your demands of them. And that is part of friendship. Listening is part of friendship. Shared experiences is part of friendship. You can feel a real tight bond just by sharing experiences.
Yes. Okay. Makes a lot of sense. So I see that there's different types, but at the same time, they're very intertwined, like they overlap each other and
yes.
they come together toward each other. So we have erotic love, friendship love, love of strangers, love of belonging or belonging love.
Belonging love, yeah. All right, so let's go to one that we all like and love, and this is just things that we like about each other, things that we like together. And this is the basis actually of all friendships. And it says a lot in our relationships as well. Okay, so somebody might say, I like my partner's hair. I just love the way that her hair flows. And she may like the way that I can speak confidently, all right? So all of those are little attributes about the other person that you just like. And liking love is the type of love where you can just like anything from music, golf, to a physical attribute. This is the kind of love when people say, oh, I love Elton John. Right now, when somebody says they love Elton John, they don't love Elton John in an erotic manner. They like his music and they like some of the things that he stands for, or Adele, or just any of these celebrities, and we can feel that we like them a lot. And that in ancient Greece is called epithumia, which is a liking love, and it's the basis of a lot of our friendships and our erotic bases. So. Let's say there's some relationships where we've got a movie that's called Must Love Dogs, all right? I know it's an old movie, but a lot of people will bond over dogs. Oh, she's a dog lover, just like I am. Oh, that feels good. We like the same things. And so in our modern day, where a lot of relationships get expressed in sex first before it becomes a long-term relationship, we get these things mixed up. So when somebody says, I love having sex with Tom, they can mean three things, okay? They can mean I love sex, I like sex, okay? They can say, look, there's something special about having sex with Tom that's like nobody else, and I really like that. Or they can say, I am in a love relationship with Tom, and sex is part of our love expression. And they're actually three different things. But because sex is such a powerful motivator in all of us, we get them mixed up. Because if I ask people, do you like sex? Well, it's sort of like, well, hell yeah, all right? But it's sort of like, what does that mean? Because there's a part of us that could like sex with anybody, or like sex with the one person that you're committed to, where it becomes part of a full love expression. So that just liking something is epithumia love. And it's just liking something. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense. It's actually really, really clear. I like that. Okay. So that was number 5. What do we have for number 6?
What do I have for number 6? All right. So let me go in the times of the relationship when things get tough. All right. When your relationship goes through a bad patch, when there's a lot of friction between the two of you, or one person is ill. Somebody has an addiction or a depression or a physical illness that just takes an extra lot of understanding. So let's take the illness situation first. I have seen couples that just do amazing things for each other, right? They go that extra mile. It's not just they say, what would you like for breakfast this morning while they're in bed recovering, right? They actually go the extra mile in extraordinary ways. And I've had people in my clinic say to me, I just couldn't believe how much he loved me. What he did for me when I had to go through this particular illness was above and beyond. I didn't know that he loved me so much. So that idea of going above and beyond and getting out of your own selfishness just to fulfill somebody else's needs in a very special way becomes agape love. Now, in ancient Greece, this was looked as a divine love, an ideal of love, a love that involved compassion, understanding, and empathy, perhaps even for everybody in the human race. So people who are just kind and generous to strangers are exhibiting agape love. People who are in helping industries like ambulances or some of the healthcare workers during the coronavirus crisis, where they put their lives on their line, okay, they are, in a sense, serving with agape love. Now, back to a couple's relationship. If somebody's stuffed up and needs forgiveness, all right, these are hard moments, depending on how bad the stuff up has been. Yeah, but okay, but let's face it, Esty, we all stuff up, at least in small ways, all right? And obviously, as a clinician, I get to work with people who have stuffed up in big ways, right? Okay, so the question comes up, can you forgive me? Now, when somebody forgives somebody else, they're letting go of their own demands and their own expectations to say, I'm going to go beyond all of that and forgive you and give you another chance when you may not deserve it. Where does that come from? That comes from agape love, from the idea, damn it, look, you're a human being, you're a flawed human being, just like so many of us. All right, let's try to get through this. And it's like, thank you. Thank you for that. I'm indebted to you. No, you're not. No, I don't want that in our relationship, but I am going to forgive you, although it's going to take some time to heal the wounds.
Yeah.
But let's do it. All right?
And
I've seen couples do that.
That makes the separation of, there's the concept of the forgiveness and there's the concept of the healing part. So
yeah. And it's hard stuff.
Yeah.
But that involves agape love, right? Because you're not feeling too erotic about the other person when you've got to forgive them, all right? The friendship is not terribly strong at that particular point. You may feel that you still belong together, but you've got a problem. And so the way through is agape love.
Okay.
So it becomes a very important love, all right?
Mm-hmm. It's one, I feel, correct me if I'm wrong, that doesn't happen. Oh, I guess it depends what. It could, never mind, I scratched that. I was going to say it doesn't happen every day, but I was focusing just on the forgiveness part. If you're doing things for each other and you're helping each other and you're caring for each other, it could happen every day. So never mind.
Oh, yeah. No, that's exactly right. Because even if we get it right all the time, because you've got two people with different personalities, you end up hurting your partner, even if you don't want to. I didn't mean that. Yeah, right. But that's how I took it, okay? And you go, oh my gosh, well, I like doing it this way. Well, I don't like doing it that way. And so there's this argy-bargy that happens all the time. And the nice thing is you're laughing, all right? So if you can do some of that with humor, that helps a lot, Esty. That helps a lot.
Okay. So for our last type of love.
Last type of love. Have we got another type of love to go through? Yes, we do. A very underestimated type of love. And this type of love is called mentoring. And okay, I'll go back to ancient Greece where this word came from. And what happened, this has to do with the story of Helen of Troy, where Odysseus went out basically on his adventures and left his son to take care of his mother. Now, his mother was an attractive-looking woman. There were all these other men who were after her. And this young man, this son, he had the job of having to take care of his mum, keep all these unwanted suitors away. And he wanted to find out what the hell happened to my dad. Where the hell is he? So down comes goddess Athena to help this guy. But she comes down disguised as a King Mentes. And King Mentes was wise and was able to help this son and just guide him through all of life so that he was able to get the answers to the questions that he's needed. So from this legend, we get the word mentor. And a mentor can be a teacher in, let's say, a musical instrument or at school, or a coach in a sport, or somebody that has some expertise that you don't have and they become your mentor. An older sister can be a mentor, particularly when you're going through puberty issues. An older sister can be fantastic. An uncle or an aunt can become a mentor. A good friend can become a mentor just to help guide you through life. Well, I got to tell you, this happens every day in a love relationship as well, because you will naturally find that he may be good at budgeting and you may be good at socializing. All right. So what we do is we don't get the budgeter to take care of the socializing and the socializer to take care of the budgeting. We naturally do what we're better at. All right. And sometimes people sort of say, hey, I'm doing this all wrong. Can you give me just a bit of advice how to handle this relationship? And I got to tell you, the number of times that women in particular will help guys out with their male relationships, right, just by giving a little bit of advice. Hey, maybe he's feeling this or that, just to help them through. Well, that's a form of love. That is mentoring. And we do it every day. And it's the time when you become an expert to teach somebody who needs a bit of help. Then there'll be other times when your partner becomes the expert at times that you need a bit of help. And in this day when we're really talking about how important individualism is and how it is important to be a complete person, none of us are complete, and all of us love it when somebody else who's a bit better than us can just take the lead for a while. And there is space for this in a love relationship. And
so oxytocin really gets released during this process of mentoring love?
Sorry, gets released?
Oxytocin, you said in the beginning.
Oxytocin, yes. Yes, oxytocin gets released because of the bond in all of these love types, all of them. From a scientific point of view, oxytocin gets released. Yes, because oxytocin is the basis of all the things that we feel of love. And
so could that be the reason why certain people, or a lot of people, I should say, like helping other people, like jobs of service, jobs of helping, because it makes them feel good? And what's that making them feel good on a psychological, on a scientific level?
Esty, we have studies showing that people who help others get what's called a helper's high. It just feels good when you have helped somebody. As a doctor, I get that feeling. Counselors get that feeling. Teachers get that feeling. Ambulance drivers get that feeling. Piano teachers get that feeling. Coaches get that feeling, right? I have made a difference in somebody else's life. And that is mediated by oxytocin and other chemicals as well. And I'm talking about dopamine, serotonin, and beta endorphins, which give us feelings of pleasure, belonging, and contentment. Yeah, I did something good today. That feels wonderful. And if you can allow your love partner to have that feeling, that strengthens the bond in you. So that
is a really good one. Let your partner also give them that chance to be able to go and experience that sort of love, because by letting them being able to mentor you.
Oh yeah. And we have to sort of quieten down the forces in the world that says we all have to be good at everything and we all have to be fiercely independent. One of the most wonderful feelings in the world is being dependent on somebody else and letting somebody else be strong for you. That feels absolutely wonderful. And partners can do it for each other in different contexts, and that enhances all the different types of love. So if you're having your mentoring love go really well, that will show up in the bedroom, right? Because you feel better about each other and you're expressing so much more. There's so much more oxytocin in the middle of your intimacy.
Oh, I love that so much. Oh God. Okay. So you're going to go and evaluate each one of your 7 types of love and see which ones need to be improved. For our listeners here, where do life fixers connect with you and learn more about you?
Where can they? All right. So basically, there's a website that we have, www.drchristianheim.com. Otherwise, we have a YouTube channel. You can also find us on Facebook and on Instagram. And they're just little things that sort of help you through your day and just share a few insights on particular relationships and mental health to make sure that you get through this world that we're living in at the moment, which is quite challenging.
Oh, I'm in agreement on that one. Okay, so final question. One that I ask everyone is, how would you describe an extraordinary relationship without using love, trust, or intimacy?
Bottom line answer, I don't think that I can. But an extraordinary relationship is two people who take the time to understand and accept each other fully.
You did a really good job with that one. Don't say that you can't.
Oh, well, you put me on the spot there, Esty. But
thank you so much, Dr. Kristen. This was really fun and really interesting. I really appreciate you coming on here today.
Oh, look, and I appreciate your questions. I appreciate your humor and your openness. All right. That goes such a long way to relationships. Esty, all the best in yours and in all the relationships of your listeners, okay?
Thank you.
That's all for this episode of the LifePix University podcast, but I have a huge favor to ask of you that will not only support the show, but will also help the people you love most. We are striving for 1 million downloads by the end of 2025, and we can't do this without your help. If you love this episode, please share it with 2 of your family and friends so they too can rewire their brains to have an extraordinary marriage. It was awesome spending time with you, and I'll see you on the next episode.